So we transitioned our planning into being more values-based. Like, how do you start to relate to your money differently? Like, what are the assets that you can own that can, really be a fit for you? And sure, like our job will be in the background to make sure it all works long-term as your planner. But really it's like, let's get you into this process. Like, let's get some buy-in. Like, we want our clients to be proud of their money and their financial situation and take ownership of it.
You are tuned in to the Money Script Podcast. Today we will share strategies to help you grow your financial literacy and improve your money script. I'll be back with some important announcements. Until then, enjoy the show.
Welcome back to the Money Script Podcast. It's your host, Yohance Harrison. I am here today with one of my favorite segments. This is what we like to call Between Three Advisors. Yeah, normally it's two, but it's three of us. There's three. For those of you that are watching on YouTube, I decided to have a little fun with our little threesome here. So if I make it like this, then we got kind of like this little reverse Oreo thing going. But I won't make you have to think about that any longer than you just had to. So I'm here joined by Erik and Brad. We met did we meet at Nitrogen?
No, I met at the Altruist Conference.
Altruist Conference, that's what it was. Altruist, yeah. So we met at the Altruist Conference. I have an Altruist t-shirt as well, just to wear it today. And they were telling me a little bit about their practice, what they're doing. They've got a unique approach to asset management that we'll talk more about. But most of you as listeners, you know who I am, because this isn't your first episode. But if it is, I'm a financial advisor. I'm CEO and founder of Money Script Wealth Management, where I help people bring alignment between their values, their goals, and their financial behaviors. And really, it's just all about helping them make better decisions with their money. This podcast is brought to you today by Financial Literacy. That's what this is all about, helping you become a little bit more financially literate. And hopefully, if you listen to this, you will go out and, do some more investigation into your own finances and how you're making your financial decisions. And maybe, just maybe, you reach out to a professional for some help. So without any further ado, let's dive in. Erik, Brad, tell us, or tell the listeners, whoever wants to go first, how did you get into financial services?
Go for it, Erik.
Yeah, so I had the luxury of growing up around the financial services business. So my first time I was in a financial services meeting, I was with my dad. I was a wee little guy, 6 years old. He would take me around and go on appointments, and now that I have kids, I know I was probably not keeping my mom from having to deal with me. So, but yeah, I would go with him and hang out and listen to him talk about things. And so I graduated from school, worked for a company that did commercial insurance and retirement plans, 401ks for small businesses, eventually transitioned over to doing financial planning. And it was really because I loved working with people, helping people achieve what they want, understand what they care about, and put together a plan that's going to achieve that.
Beautiful. Yeah, I used to drag my son onto those appointments as well. He can still do a pretty mean tax triangle every now and then if he tries. He usually gets things out of order, but he got some of the concepts down. Brad, how about you?
Yeah, I came from a completely different angle. I studied to be a scientist, got my master's in geophysics. And then as I was writing my thesis, I was like, I don't want to be following code books all day for the rest of my life. So I started looking into other things, teaching being one of them, running my own environmental consulting business being another, and then doing financial planning because I'd known a bunch of Northwestern Mutual agents who told me that I should join their practice. So I was like, okay, I looked into all those things. I had a background. My mom she retired an executive at State Farm. So I grew up being around finance. But when I started to really seriously consider the Northwestern Mutual or State Farm agent route, I was friends with Erik. And that's when Erik was like, hey,
Erik's been shaking his head the whole time. He's like,
you need to know some things about this.
I tried to talk him out of going into the business.
Yeah.
There you go.
And when I couldn't talk him out of going into the business, I said, well, you should at least join our firm because I think we do a good job.
Yeah.
There you go. And don't get us wrong, Brad. There is nothing wrong with being an agent for Northwestern Mutual or
Mhm.
for State Farm,
That's right.
especially not for your mother.
That's right.
But there's something right about being a full service financial advisor. We'll put it to you that way.
Yeah, I wanted to teach. That's like why teaching. Like I was experiencing how like I was around all these smart people in my programs, and they like were making really bad decisions about money, and it was kind of affecting their lives. And they had these questions, and I was like, I just want to help people like teach them. And so when like you're right, there's nothing wrong with being those agents, but the incentive there was to provide a like a product and not to teach per se.
Yes.
So yeah.
I can't tell you how many poorly funded whole life, universal life policies I come across. And I'm just like, did your agent ask you any questions about your financial life? Or did they just say, do you want some insurance? And again, insurance serves a purpose. It's just, I hate the concept of a whole life policy or universal life policy or variable universal life policy being the Swiss Army knife of
Yeah.
financial planning. So
Yeah.
there's actually, we're going to have to cut to it. We're going to do something fun here. So I want you to cut to right now, the Waka Flocka Flame, where he's talking about life insurance. So for those of you that are into, well, here, run the tape.
Oh, it's habits. I just pay attention to habits. And one day I had a friend of mine was like, yo, man, I went to school for being a financial historian. I'm like, what is that?
Yeah, I never heard of that
Right? I'm like, I'm asked. I'm like, bro, I don't know what that is. What is that? He was like, bro, we study rich people's spending habits. I was like, oh, snap.
one. Blew your mind.
What? I became that. I just start following what people do. I'm like, oh, I want to win, bro. I got to win. I'm telling y'all right now, anything I do not to look over my shoulder, I'm down with it. It's easy. Once I learned the credit game, it was over. Game was over. But I know I had all the millions and I didn't even have a credit card. The dumbest. I was like the dumbest person ever. I used to just spend money on everything. Man, please.
Yeah.
Please. I'm going to open up an insurance, put $2-3 million in my insurance, and borrow from that and put it back in. I never lose my money, ever. And anybody get money, I'll give you a promissory note. Because you go promise to pay this back. I'm going to bring you to court.
Okay. So what you heard him talking about was using life insurance and being able to bank with his life insurance. But people misunderstood part of what he said. So he said, I went out and got 2 to 3 million of insurance. What he did not do was go buy a $2 or $3 million whole life policy and start funding it with $200 a month. No, he probably took $2 or $3 million, put it into a whole life policy, and it probably got him $5 or $6 million worth of life insurance. And then, yes, at some point in time, he could probably utilize that cash value to be able to leverage it to borrow for other things. And it might make sense, but he put $2 to $3 million in the policy. We come across people that are like, oh, I want to buy a $2 million life policy and I'm going to bank on myself in 10 years. How much you willing to contribute? $200 a month. We ain't going to be banking on much. The cost of the insurance is going to be $150. And I meet people all the time like, oh, well, I got this life policy. It's worth $2 million. No, the death benefit is worth $2 million. What it's worth to you in cash value is $17.
When you're
so
121, it'll be worth $2 million.
Exactly. So, all right. Again, I told y'all this was between three advisors. We're gonna keep it 100 for y'all. All right. So you guys are RIAs like myself. Is that right? Is that the same concept there? Okay. Awesome. And where are you located?
Fort Collins, Colorado.
Okay, so right up the road. Eric, you in the same place?
Yep, we are.
Okay. Y'all actually you're actually in the room next door, right?
Yep, we're
okay. That's what I figured. All right. So I was like, I figured that. Okay, awesome, good stuff. I want to just for our listeners today, I want to talk about just the world of investing because I know the two of you are very passionate about values investing, and I just want to can we start with each just telling our stories of our first investment portfolios? What were some of the investments we chose and why?
So I've got a interesting and unfortunate story around this. So I told you my dad was a financial advisor. And so as I was growing up, he was putting money into mutual funds. And this was the late 90s. So I had some MFS tech mutual fund, I'm sure. And I remember it getting up to be worth almost $5,000. And then I remember it being worth $1,500 or $1,700 or something like that. So that was the tech bubble. And so I have like a very formative memory of that. And then also right after that happened, I, um, I worked all summer, and there was this company called Apple that had these iMacs that I thought were pretty cool. So I literally took all of my lawn mowing money, $1,200 or $1,400, opened a Scott Trade account when I was 17. I don't even think I was old enough to open it wasn't an UDMA, and bought 100 shares of Apple.
Wow.
Yep, was all in 100%
Yes.
into Apple stock, and I owned it for almost a year, and
Not
then
long enough.
nope, not quite.
I was waiting for it. I was like, he was like, and I'm actually a multimillionaire right now.
No.
Why am I even on this podcast? I'm going to
Yeah.
go do something else.
So I was going to college, and my dad said, "Hey, I need some computers. Why don't you build me a couple computers, and I'll rent them from you for $100 a month?" And I was like, "Okay, it'll cost $1,000 to build the computers. He'll pay me $100 a month. I'll get paid back in a year. This is great." Sold my Apple stock, bought 2 computers, and I stopped keeping track when it would have been worth over $500,000. But
Oh man, that means you stopped keeping track of like a decade ago.
yeah, basically.
Oh, man.
So that's
On
my
that note,
unfortunate investment.
I feel like I need to pour myself a drink now. Oh,
I think so. It's a good time.
wow, a good time for that. All right. Well, Brad, follow that.
Yeah, mine is not that interesting. I got a job shortly after college, and because my mom was a State Farm agent, knew that I needed to buy car insurance because we just bought a car. And the guy was like, "Hey, have you thought about investing?" And I was like, "I mean, I know what it is, but I haven't done it yet because I don't have any money." And he's like, "Okay, great. Why don't we open a Roth IRA and invest in State Farm mutual funds?" And so I bought State Farm mutual funds. And then now State Farm doesn't offer mutual funds anymore because of all the regulations. But
Okay.
that's it.
Well, hey, at least you started a Roth IRA early. So mine started in the days of also in the late 90s, which I hear a common theme here, tech bubble. So late 90s, I'm working at Nations Bank, soon to be Bank of America. I just didn't know it was going to happen at the time. And I used to, as a teller, I used to refer business to the broker at the time. And, I'd see people's accounts like, "Hey, you got this money only earning 7% in the money market account. Why earn 7 when you can earn 70 from whatever mutual fund?" I wasn't really saying it like that because I'd be against the regulations, but I was telling people, "Hey, go talk to the broker." And so after months and months of referring millions of dollars to the broker, one day I just said, "Well, wait, I got a t-shirt for the amount of referrals that I sent to you. What did you get?" And he said, "I thought you'd never ask." And he showed me his paycheck. And I was like, "Oh, I'm on the wrong side of the bank." He said, "Yes, you are." So he was the one that showed me how to open up my first investment account. And, he said, "Why don't you buy some Nations Bank stock?" I was like, "Why not? I should do that." And then he referred me to the broker training program. He's like, "Come on over to the dark side." And I said, "Yeah, I'd love to do that." And that was as Nations Bank was turning into Bank of America. And when that happened, it was a pretty good day for my stock portfolio, but not a good day for my job. So they decided that they were going to shut down the Series 7 training group that I was in. Funny thing though, they forgot to lay us off, but they laid off our boss, the proctor that was there, because we'd basically show up from 8 to 5 and study and learn about the business while studying, and that was kind of our day to day. And I had only been in the program like 2 months when they shut it down, so I didn't even have a test date yet. Yeah, so we show up for work. We're just kind of doing our normal thing. We think maybe he's out sick or something, so we'll just do our normal thing. And then one day, like the third day, I believe, we go out to lunch. We all go. It's downtown Charlotte, so we go to the local eateries, whatever, and we all come back, and the security was like waiting for us. It's like, we can't let you guys in. We're like, "What did we do?" It's like, "None of you work here anymore." And he just starts taking our badges from us. I'm like, "What? What does this mean?" So there I was without a job. Like, okay. And then you know what I did? I went and applied at Northwest Mutual. They wouldn't hire me. I applied at what were their name? Not Solomon Smith Barney. Who were they before that?
Solomon
They
Brothers.
were Solomon. They're Solomon Brothers. So I applied there. They said no, because I was a young black kid with no family. They would ask me in the interview, "So who do you know that has money?" Like, you?
You.
Like, don't you guys have the money? Why do I need money? Because I didn't know, because I was in a bank where the clients just kind of showed up. I didn't know that in these other worlds I had to go out and get the clients. I was like, yeah, I don't know anybody with money. I'm like, I'm 20 years old. So anyways, but then I found some place. So yeah, let's go back to this Apple thing. So have y'all heard the news that Warren Buffett, or well, Berkshire Hathaway is de-leveraging their portfolio as amount that they have in Apple? However,
Yeah.
they have like a 600% return or something ridiculous like that.
Yep. Did you hear Warren Buffett's comments in the annual meeting a couple weekends
About
ago
Apple?
About
I
that?
thought I
exactly?
might have read. Remind me. I'm sure I glanced over them. What did he say?
So he basically insinuated. Somebody asked him about this. I said, "What about Apple? I heard that Ted and Tom or somebody sold 100 million shares or something like that." And he reiterated that Apple is an important company and that he believes in it and it's going to be core to Berkshire's holdings. And then he went on to basically say that the way that the government's headed, he sees that tax rates are going up. And he said, I think everybody's going to be happy that we sold some stock and only paid 21% income tax on it.
Interesting. I did
Yes,
not hear that. That's okay.
It is not what I expected, but that's what he insinuated. It was a tax
Man.
play.
It's a tax play. Well, also, I think it was close to over half their portfolio or something like that it grown to be.
It's a lot.
And he doesn't like having that much into one company. And he said that in several of his books about, once something becomes a certain size, you just have to know when to sell. And if you're going to sell, he says his favorite hold period is forever or when he's made money. It's
Right.
like, so made some money and let's get out of here. So yeah, Bank of America, then Nations Bank. So my Bank of America stock is what kept food on the table during my displacement, because we were considered displaced. We weren't laid off. We just had to get an unemployment line. There was no severance, no nothing.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
It was.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's the big banks for you. So, all right. Well, let's talk value investing. So, how did you, or how did your firm become passionate about values-based investing? Well, actually what is values-based investing? Let's start there.
Yeah, I think it's the way we would define it is aligning your money with the things that are important to you, even and maybe even in the absence of financial metrics. I think financial metrics are important, but it's like, what are the things that are important to you that are not financial that you want to be invested in? That's how we would define it.
Yeah.
Or how I would, at least.
Yeah. I think the only thing that I would add to that is to say that to me, value investing is all about having integrity with what you believe with your money, as well as everything else in life.
So what we're not talking about is growth stock versus value stock. We're talking about internal values as an individual. What do you value? So I have something to share on that. When the first portfolio I ever designed, because I worked at a company that we weren't allowed to buy individual stocks until like 2006 or 7. So I've been an advisor for like 5 or 6 years, only having mutual funds like that MFS Tech Fund. I bought it after the crash. But when we were finally able to buy stocks, I was really excited to go build a stock portfolio for myself. And I really didn't know where to start. And I decided to start with basically not only my values, but also, because I think values can be represented by your receipts, meaning where do you already spend your money? So I built my first portfolio around companies that I already did business with. And my whole idea was if the product is good enough to go into my body or go on my body or be in my house, then it's got to be good enough for me to invest in the stock, or I have to question, why am I eating this product? So the first stocks I bought were Kimberly-Clark. I had a kid. We bought Pampers. So I was like, well, I buy a lot of those, might as well get that. And then I kind of thought about it. I was like, well, there's also toilet paper and tissues and feminine hygiene products. I was like, yeah, I think they're going to be around a while. So I bought Kimberly-Clark. So that was one of the first ones. I bought Clorox because I use bleach when I clean my clothes and all this other stuff. I was like, that's a good one. I purchased Ford. Another story about that later. That was
Did you drive a Ford?
I didn't, but my grandfather worked for Ford for 50
Okay.
years and it made him
Yeah.
a millionaire.
Mhm.
Okay.
So I kind of thought, I can do that too. But the difference is he bought it 50 years ago and I bought it in 2006. I bought Apple because I had an iMac, and the first computer I ever used or remember using was an Apple. I was at a school that one of those schools that got an Apple computer, and you would be in line to use the Apple computer. So I bought Apple. What else was in my portfolio? Oh, I remember. I had these DVDs that would show up at my doorstep every few days, 2 or 3 at a time. I'd watch them, send them back, and I just loved that process. And I was like, oh, I wonder if this company's publicly traded. It was like, oh, look, they are. Netflix.
Mhm.
I'll get some of that too. So I had about 10 stock, but they were all any stock that I purchased. It had to be a company that I either was doing business with on a normal basis or truly believed in. But
Mhm.
when it was other stuff like, oh, you want to buy some, I don't know, name whatever stock of the day back then, or the oil and gas stocks like Exxon, all that stuff, I wasn't interested in them because I just got gas wherever was local and cheapest. So I wasn't someone that wanted to buy, and it wasn't because I was green or oh, they're bad for the environment. It was like, no, I don't really care about the oil companies. So I'm just going to invest in the companies that I truly care about. And it turns out that as an investment thesis, other than Ford, that served me very well. And the truth is, it was Netflix that did all the serving.
Yeah.
So that was fun. And I held Netflix for a long time. That was a fun ride. I did eventually sell it all in like 2015, but I had a good time at Netflix.
Yeah.
Good. Now,
And they
go ahead.
just stopped the DVD service.
Yeah. So funny thing, I remember that day, that announcement, that quarterly earnings. I remember reading Rich Hastings' comments that he was going to split the company in two, and he was going to start transferring investment to digital streaming and stop investing in DVDs. And the stock plummeted because everyone said that he was an idiot.
Mhm.
And I was thinking to myself, I was like, I think he's onto something. I'm gonna buy some more of this. One of the best decisions I ever made. But I remember when I was like, you know what? I'm going to stop ordering the DVDs. I'm gonna stop. I'm just gonna do this streaming thing. And before I knew it, my son teased me all the time. I don't even own any DVDs anymore. My whole collection is gone. But my son has reminded me something. But now I own nothing because everything's in digital form. I don't own that.
Mhm.
I'm borrowing it from Apple. I'm borrowing it from Netflix. I don't own a collection of film anymore. I was like, okay, I guess you're right. So, but anyways, let's talk back to value investing. So how have the two of you been able to introduce this as an opportunity for clients to get on board with aligning their values and their investment decisions?
Yeah. I think what happened was, like, we were running an efficient practice, and we were under the same umbrella kind of organization, but we were colleagues. And we had offices right next to each other. And so we would talk about things all the time. And our businesses were going well. But there was just this, like, kind of sensation or experience that, like, our clients who we really liked and cherished, like, were just coming to us because it was the thing to do. It was like your dentist visit, right? Like, you go once or twice a year, you check it off the list, you look at some charts and you feel good. And yet Eric and I are like, hey, money is really emotional. Like, there's a lot of power behind our money and what we do with it, and even to some degree the control it can have in our lives if we're not careful or if we don't, kind of talk about it. And so we wanted to be able to level up our offering, and we were experiencing all sorts of things in the world. This is like around 2016, and so, like, people were just more cognizant about their values and what they stood for or didn't want to stand for. So we transitioned our planning into being more values based. Like, how do you start to relate to your money differently? Like, what are the assets that you can own that can, really be a fit for you? And sure, like, our job will be in the background to make sure it all works long term as your planner. But really, it's like, let's get you into this process. Like, let's get some buy-in. Like, we want our clients to be proud of their money and their financial situation, to take ownership of it. So we did that, and then it got to the investment conversation inevitably, because investments are a part of a financial plan. And it was like, here is your, generic 80-20 ETF portfolio, and the holdings are like the MSCI EAFE, index fund. And our clients were like just glazed eyes, like, here's the dentist experience again, right?
Mm.
And so we're like, we can do better here. Like, we want our clients to feel proud about their investments. Like, we've already shared stories that are really impactful in our lives about how investing can kind of shape our futures and our experiences. We want our clients to be proud of the things that they own, the things that they're invested in. And that was when we were like, we got to do better again. So we looked at a lot of the services out there, and we just couldn't find something that could really build a portfolio for all of our clients on an automated basis at any account level, that would really be personalized to the things they cared about, and not kind of like force values upon them, but let them like lead the conversation. And so that's kind of what led to the inception of the tool that we built kind of inside of our planning practice that we've now separated outside of it. It's kind of the inception story.
So how do you match this values investing with we spoke about Warren Buffett earlier, where Warren Buffett says, the average person does a horrible job of stock picking.
Yeah.
And they should just go buy, a spider index, the S&P index fund.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you fit those two mantras together and still deliver a great experience for the client?
Yeah, I'll take that. So if you think about it, when you buy the S&P 500 or an index fund, or frankly, if you invest in any large cap mutual fund, you're getting a conglomerate of a whole bunch of different companies. And I would argue that you do need a number of companies to be diversified, but you don't need 500. And so if you were to look at that portfolio and look at the list of 500 companies, and if you were informed and understood how those companies handle different social issues and different environmental issues, different issues of shareholder governance, how they integrate into their communities, you might find that there are a lot of those companies that you really don't jive with what they're doing. And you could exclude those and build a portfolio out of the remaining companies and still do just as good of job, maybe even better. But
so
that
is this
portfolio,
similar than to direct indexing?
I would say that what we are doing is different than direct indexing, because direct indexing starts with what's the whole market. Let's build a portfolio of the whole market that represents the whole market, and that's the objective. Where we're saying, what is it that somebody really cares about? What's important to them? What are the things that they want to support? And then also, let's remove the things that they exclude or that they don't want to support. Okay. Let's build a portfolio that works, that achieves, that's diversified, that meets all the objectives that an investment manager has. Let's build that portfolio out of that group of companies. And so it's a little bit different orientation. It's much more oriented around what does the actual, client want.
So is it possible then for a client to potentially be under diversified, if not educated? I mean, talk to us about that.
Yeah, I think that that we designed this as a tool for advisors because it's important to have a client to have a relationship with a fiduciary advisor who's looking out for that client's best interest. We're building the portfolios in such a way that we're going to meet those diversification minimums, that we're going to have a portfolio that works and accomplishes everything that an advisor wants as a fiduciary. But yes, somebody could be under diversified. If you had 5 stocks, especially if they were in the same industry, you're not going to be diversified.
Okay, so to be clear, then this is an advisor tool, because clients, let's keep it honest, you guys are going to mess it up. Clients, you just will, because you have too many biases that get in the way.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It is an advisor tool. I think like there's applications where you could use it outside of advisor. Like the way we built it now is like we want it to be an experience where the advisor can co-create a portfolio with the client. So when we onboard an advisor into the tool, they get to say like, hey, what are my allocations across different risk levels? Like, what is that for me as an advisor? Like, what's my investment philosophy there? what are my preferred holdings on like small cap or emerging markets or like fixed income? And like you get to put those preferences in, whether it's like an ETF or a mutual fund, or you have like a preferred asset manager. And then are there like any factor like tilts that you want to check? And then our tool builds the infrastructure so that all of that kind of total portfolio offering is constructed specifically for that advisor. And then they invite the client in to say, like, what are your values? And then the companies that we have data on that we can actually make an informed decision on, like, hey, this is a good fit for you based on your values. Like, we can add those in as like the US large cap stocks. And then
Got it.
eventually, as we get more data, we'll do it for international and fixed income as well. But how we're thinking about it is like, let's get this tool that the advisor can say, like, hey, this delivers real value because it's my investment philosophy that's unique to me, and it's my clients' values that's unique to them. And let's build that portfolio on a one-to-one basis for every one of our clients. That's how we're thinking about it.
Got it. So we have a lot of different listeners for the show, advisors. I know, hey, all you advisors out there, hey, for those of you that also agree that we are not in competition with each other. Our competition is all the things that our clients waste their money on. And then, of course, procrastination. That is our biggest competition. And there's so many households to go around, so we will all be just fine. So thank you, advisors, for tuning into the show. So I want to speak directly to the advisors right now that are listening in, and don't tune out. Prospects and clients will come back to you. But for the advisors that want to learn more about Pomarium, how can they learn? Where can they get started? Do you have a trial or some? I'm sure you have some videos or something that they can learn more about it.
Yeah, that's what our take on this is. Like, hey, we built this for our practice out of our need. Like, we hope that people can just test it out too. Like, so we're trying to do it very low key, get people onboarded, like make it as little friction as possible, because we understand that advisors have a lot of technical tools that they need to like worry about how to integrate into a workflow.
Yeah,
So
like cameras into your podcast, things like that. I get it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do right now, like we're about to launch our beta for a small number of firms, where we can get product feedback, like early adopters that get really excited about it. We'll have a full release after that, probably 3 to 6 months, like quarter 3, quarter 4 this year. But if you're interested in testing out the beta, just to like be like, hey, this kind of sounds like a cool idea, I'd like to try it out, like low key, put it in front of a client or two. The best way to do that would be to go to our website, which is getpomarium.com, and just click the button contact us, or to send Erik and I an email, which is just brad@getpomarium.com or Erik@getpomarium.com.
Great. We'll put that in the show notes. So what is your message then to clients and prospective clients who want to engage their advisor in a conversation of I don't want the check the box dental exam when it comes to my portfolio? How should they, what's a good way for them to approach that conversation with their advisor?
I think, unfortunately, there's when you're speaking to an advisor, you're speaking to somebody that's never had the tools to easily personalized investment portfolio, especially with individual stocks, in their entire career. The technology has simply not been there. It's been very difficult. And like our mission is to give people an investment portfolio that they love, that they look at and they say, yeah, I like these. I like these companies. That's what we want. I think that that's going to help people be successful in the long run. It stinks losing money in a market downturn. It especially sucks whenever you've got companies that you don't love in your investment portfolio. And I assure you, if you're holding an index fund, you're holding companies that you don't love. So like at least ride through the downtimes with companies that you believe in and are willing to get behind. So I think speaking up and just telling an advisor like, hey, this is important to me. I would love the possibility of having a portfolio that aligns with my values, and just see what they say.
And I would add to that, Yohance, and you resonate with this, and we like, these are some of the things we bonded over at the Ultras conferences. Is it like you have the best interest of your clients in mind, and like you're putting their values forefront, right? Like, and I actually think a lot of advisors are like that, but they don't have the ability to actually know how to execute that in like a modern or in a way that resonates. And so what ends up happening is you kind of get this experience where clients or prospects talk to somebody and they kind of get put through this process that just feels stale and not like it doesn't resonate. And then there's this, and then that gets attached to this stigma of advisors that's like, oh, they don't care about people, they just want to golf, or they just want to do these things. And I think actually, like, and this has been really helpful for me to learn as I've gotten more in the industry and gone to like ultras conferences and talks, is like, actually advisors, a lot of advisors out there do care about the people they're working with. And it's just like that they might not have the tools to like best deliver that. So I think, like Erik said, like just ask, like say like, hey, I really care about this. And the advisor might be like, I don't do that. And it's like, this is really hard to do sometimes for some people, but just have the gumption to be like, why not? Like there might be tools out there. Can we look? You know, like I want to work with you and I trust you want to work with me. Like let's do this together to get better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think that all change happens because people ask and speak up. And one of the big impetuses behind Pomarium is giving every investor a voice and letting, you're not directly letting companies know that you don't want to invest in them because of their human rights policy. But if that's important to you and that's important to enough people and they're actually changing what they're investing in based on that, companies are going to figure that out. And so, like, we also believe that there's an important element of social change that we can drive by using our capital actively.
Yeah, the meme stocks taught us that. The meme stocks taught us we if you haven't seen the movie Dumb Money, I think it's called, to go watch Dumb Money. You won't be able to own it. You just have to rent it from one of those places. Or, I mean, you go get the DVD if you want to, but I don't even have a DVD player anymore. But the point is that we have learned that in numbers that we as consumers, as lay investors, we don't have to be activists. Mm-hmm. We can actually make changes at a corporate level.
Yeah.
So I believe a lot in what you all are doing, and I appreciate you, of course, for coming on to the Money Script podcast. And I have to say this, it's going to be on the closeout, but not everyone listens past when the music starts. We talked about stocks. We were not recommending that you buy those stocks. We were just talking about it. We're just having a conversation. So don't go and buy Apple because Erik bought Apple and you're trying to relive his dream. Don't do that. Okay, go talk to an advisor, look at your own situation and do what's in your best interest based on your values and your goals, etc. That said, I do have to say, because you said something earlier about that emotional tie to companies. I have a company that has been just languishing in my portfolio. I had the foresight in 2000 and I want to say it was 19. You can check me on this, but it's a small company had an IPO. I think it was 2019, might have been 18. And I said, I think that company represents the future. Because I thought about it. I said, who is going to make a conversion to this technology and say, I'm going to go back to the old way of doing things? And that company is DocuSign. I was like, DocuSign, they got it. I mean, it was them. Adobe had a sign, and there was one other sign, but DocuSign, I was like, it's DocuSign. It's like it becomes a verb and a noun at the same time. Yes. They're the, and I was like, what? I said, what company's gonna say, yeah, we're not gonna do that DocuSign anymore. Let's print paper. Okay, and I loaded up on DocuSign, and then the pandemic hit.
Yeah,
and my DocuSign shares went sky high, and I was like, I did it. Yes. But then the pandemic ended and my DocuSign shares are right back where they started at the IPO.
Yeah.
And I kept buying all the way up. So, but it's one of those companies where I use DocuSign every day. Mm-hmm. I can't see any. I'm like, no, I still believe in them. It doesn't hurt as bad that I've lost money because I don't see that I've lost because I didn't buy DocuSign for what it was going to be able to do in 5 years. Mm-hmm. I purchased DocuSign for what it was going to be able to do in 15 or 20 years.
Yeah.
But because of that values-based relationship I have and that affinity I have for the company, I'm like, yeah, it's the worst performer in my portfolio, but who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah. And I'll just add on to like, I enjoy buying and selling individual stocks every now and then because it's a way that I entertain myself. Like I
Oh, yeah.
like the engagement. I'm in the industry all the time.
Yeah.
And like a bulk of my retirement assets are not in a whole bunch of individual
Oh
stocks.
yeah, bulk of my retirement's in ETFs and some mutual funds. Yeah,
Exactly. And I feel like one of the things that we see, or I see, and as Pomarium as we see, is that the technology is getting to where we can basically replace and replicate what ETFs on mutual funds are doing. We can avoid the fees of the ETF and mutual fund companies, and we can apply that layer of personalization to it. And I think that we fast forward 5-10 years from now, most people are going to have portfolios that are going to have 50, 100 different stocks on the stock side, and probably individual bonds as well. And it's more efficient, it's more personalized, it allows people to have greater transparency, it aligns better from a fiduciary perspective. And I think like that's where I see it being headed.
And they can probably save some money on taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And with that, we want to thank you all for tuning in to the Money Script Podcast. And this was our edition of Between Three Advisors. We're just doing some water cooler talk, finding ways that we can sharpen each other's swords and just get better. And as always, if you liked what you heard today, tell us by just clicking that like button or thumbs up or whatever it is that shows us that you thought this was pretty cool. But more importantly, this was all about financial literacy. Podcasts are free. I will never put a paywall in front of my podcast. If I'm forced to put a paywall in front of my podcast, I'm out of the podcasting game. This is here for you so that you can get some financial literacy without any barriers to entry other than, I guess, having access to Wi-Fi or paying your cell phone bill. So with that, please share this with someone. If you know someone that's an investor and wants to learn more about investing, we talked about a lot of things in this podcast that can plant some seeds that they can then fertilize and help grow into fruitful trees and plants in the future. So share, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend, and tune in to the Money Script Podcast soon because we got more episodes. I'm back, y'all. Actually, I am taking a week off for the graduation that's next week. So there won't be an episode. Well, actually, I record 2 today, so you'll get back-to-back episodes, but there might not be one the following week. We'll see, but tune in. There'll be more where that came from. And I'm going to go try to figure out what was going on with you probably noticed I'm in a different camera angle for those of you on YouTube. Something weird just happened with my camera all of a sudden. I don't know. It's weird. I'm going to go figure it out. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Brad. We'll see you all next time.
Thanks, Yohance.
Thanks, Yohance.
I'm back. Wasn't that a great show? I hope you learned something. I know I did. Now, before you go trying anything you heard today, remember, it is not intended to be specific tax or legal advice. If you need that, go see a CPA or an attorney. If you would like any complimentary consultation with a knowledgeable advisor, visit moneyscript.com and schedule a 15-minute consultation. Want Yohance to come speak at your next event? Go to the Money Script website for that too. Of course, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click the bell for notifications. Money Script Wealth Management is a registered financial advisory service in multiple states. Want to learn more? Get the full disclosure on our website, moneyscript.com.